The day of the SAT, I intentionally skipped 5 questions on every section, also I could go to the same school as my boyfriend. Turns out, he aced the test, got into a prestigious university in Boston, and ran off with his dream girl. Meanwhile, I, who could have gotten into an Ivy League, ended up at some no-name state school. Reborn into the past, I swear I'm taking back everything that's mine. I'm reborn. I'm back in the high school gym, taking the SAT. I don't have time to wonder if this is a dream or reality. I just stare at the exam, thinking, this time, I'm not throwing away a chance at a top school for some dude. Looking at those familiar questions, I unleash everything I've got. This time, I am getting into the best university possible. My pen flies across the page. I'm in the zone. When I walked out of the gym, I'm still a little out of it. I smack myself across the face, hard, to make sure this isn't a dream. My parents rush over to me, looking freaked out, when they see me smack myself right after leaving the test. Haley, are you losing it? My mom grabs me. Looking at the worry in their faces, tears start pouring down my face. Then, I throw my head back in hell. I'm back. I'm going to Harvard. My mom and dad exchange a look, like, this whole test thing really messed with her head. But I'm not crazy. I'm just so thrilled to have this chance. I can turn things around. Liam, this time I'm going to wipe the floor with you. Liam was my boyfriend. We were partners in bio sophomore year, and we got together during junior year. We planned to go to the same college, but I was ranked in the top 5 in our class, and Liam was barely top 200. If I wanted to go to the same school as him, I had to screw up my scores by a whole ton. He asked if I was willing to throw away some points for him. He painted this picture of us in college together, and I was such a lovesick idiot, I went full steam ahead and skipped those 5 questions on every section. I should have eaten dirt. I'm thinking this when, instead of his acceptance letter like he had promised, I found him making out with our classmate, Tiffany, at the local smoothie place. Heartbroken and furious, I charged over there, screaming, Liam, how could you betray me? But Liam, who was always so sweet to me, backhanded me, and snarled, Haley, look at yourself. You're not even good enough for me. He pushed me to the ground and put his arm around Tiffany, who was wearing a white sundress. Haley, I got into the University of Southern California, and Tiffany and I are going there together. How do you even compare to Tiffany? She's prettier, smarter, and doesn't look like she shops at a thrift store. Go rot away at your community college, you nobody. Liam left with Tiffany, who gave me a smug, superior look. The sting of the betrayal, my relatives' cutting remarks, my parents' disappointment, Liam's backstabbing, and Tiffany's gloating all flashed in my mind. Thank goodness, fate gave me a chance to go back to the SAT. This time, I'm not holding anything back. I'm going to get my revenge. The next day, Liam calls me, trying to gauge whether I skipped questions for him. I pretend to be all sweet. Of course, babe. You didn't think I'd let you down, did you? I'm so excited to go to college with you. Liam relaxes. No, babe. I'm already looking at apartments near campus. We'll be together 24/7. He's such a liar. Typically, that's his cue for needing something. Hey, I saw these new sneakers, and could you send over, like, $200? In the less than a year we dated, Liam had used every excuse to get me to send him money. I was so head over heels, I always did what he wanted. To keep him calm, I sent him money, but this time it's not 200, but $50. Honey, this is all I have left. Please use it. I act like I'm sorry for not being able to send him more. His tone instantly changed. Haley, you're so broke. You need to get a job. Beep beep. He hung up before I could say anything, but his messages keep begging for money. I sighed and sent it over. Liam always played like he was loaded in public, but he was actually always broke. That's why he constantly hit me up for cash. When I found him with Tiffany, she had on a brand new Chanel lipstick that he bought for her using my cash. Tiffany probably didn't even realize that the lipstick was bought with my money. That was when I learned that Liam had had a thing for Tiffany for 3 years. She'd always turned him down, but then she suddenly got with him after the SATs. It made me wonder if there was something shady going on. I also knew a secret about Liam that no one else knew, that he was my family's housekeeper's son. Yep, I'm Haley, a rich kid. My parents don't want me flaunting it in school, so I always wear the uniform and keep it low-key. When I was in elementary school, our housekeeper, Mrs. Baker, had her mother living with us for a few days. When I saw Liam again, I immediately knew who he was. I was planning on telling him everything, that we were in the same university, but instead, he had betrayed me. I've been acting normal these past few days, and Liam hasn't gotten suspicious at all. My counselor called me to school to get our scores. We went over my answers multiple times. She smiled and said, Haley, if I'm calculating correctly, you can get into any school you want. I smiled back. Well, I did go all in. I was bouncing with happiness as I walked out of her office, and then, of course, I stepped on a water bottle and slipped, going straight down face first. Suddenly a pair of hands caught me, right under my belly. Yes, my belly. You alright? A cool voice sounded next to me. I looked up into the face of Ethan, the guy who always aced the tests in our class. He had a small mole by the corner of his eye that just made his face all the more attractive. I caught his eyes, and it felt like I was seeing an ocean. Why yeah, I'm okay, thanks, I mumbled, my face flushed, and I ran away. I was way too embarrassed. As I tried to run away, I tripped at the corner and landed on my behind. I felt super humiliated, but behind me, I heard a low chuckle. Who was laughing? I swear to God it better not have been the handsome Ethan. The test results were released, and I was in the top 10 in the state. Turns out, the number 1 spot was also from our school. I knew that had to be Ethan. Liam called, asking how I did. I told him I got a 1200, barely passing to get into a 4-year university. I heard him sigh with relief. Great, Haley, we'll definitely go to the same school. When Liam said that, I laughed and said, how did you do, babe? I hope it's as good as mine. He stammered, yeah, about the same. He hung up quickly. I laughed quietly. In the past few days, the admissions office from top schools had been calling me nonstop, offering scholarships and everything. Does he really think I'm going to screw up my life for him again? I thought long and hard about what school I wanted. In the end, I chose Harvard. After all, it's always been my dream school. I gave it up for Liam in the last life, but I'm not going to repeat the same mistake. Then, I saw the news on TV, interviewing the top student in the state. Sure enough, it was Ethan. He looked confident, dressed in a white shirt and black pants, while the TV reporter interviewed him. Ethan, we heard you're getting calls left and right from all the best schools. Which school are you going to choose? I saw that the female reporter had hearts in her eyes. The calm young man smiled. I've decided to go to Harvard. Why did you choose Harvard instead of other universities? Because once, someone told me her dream was to ride her bike and feel the breeze in Harvard's yard. His smooth, mellow voice hit my ears. I was stunned. I said that back in freshman year when I was obsessed with the idea of going to Harvard. How could someone say the exact thing to Ethan? It couldn't be me, could it? I smacked my face with my hand. Haley, you're being way too full of yourself. Even though I told myself to stop being arrogant, I could not stop myself from dreaming about Ethan that night. The university letters finally came, and it was time to put Liam in his place. I asked around and found where Liam and Tiffany would be hanging out. I put on my Chanel suit, did my hair, and wore the diamond necklace my mom had given me for my 18th birthday. Looking at the reflection of myself, I could see the heiress in me. I brought my housekeeper, Mrs. Baker, so she could see her son get shamed. After being reborn, I took a good look at Mrs. Baker. She was always so kind, but it didn't make sense that her son was such a jerk. I decided to keep a closer eye on her. I had the groundskeeper pay attention to her, and sure enough, he found a lot of weird things going on. Like, expensive items going missing, only for Mrs. Baker's house to have new items. Or that the kitchen would buy overpriced food every time Mrs. Baker was in charge. She'd say that they were premium ingredients, when they were actually the same as the others. I was going to deal with her and her son both. I told my driver to drop me off near the coffee shop where I saw Liam and Tiffany. My driver and Mrs. Baker waited outside. I walked into the coffee shop, carrying my Dior bag. Liam and Tiffany were sitting together, making out. I heard the sounds of their saliva mixing, which was completely disgusting, and not the least bit romantic. I smiled, and sat right across from them. Liam saw me almost instantly. He pushed Tiffany away and shouted, Haley, what are you doing here? His eyes widened, staring at my clothes. He was looking at me in a way I'd never seen before, but I didn't care. I was still disgusted by him. Just coming to see my ex and his mistress. I held up my phone. Why don't you keep going? I was having so much fun filming you. Haley, don't be ridiculous. Liam slammed his hand on the table. Don't speak to us like that. Tiffany gave me a smug look, probably hoping to see me squirm from Liam yelling at me, but I simply smiled. Liam, we're over. Liam was surprised. It was clear he expected to break up with me. He was humiliated. Just like in the last life, he said the exact same thing. Haley, I was going to break up with you. I got into USC, and I'm going to go to school with Tiffany. Look at yourself. You are nowhere close to Tiffany. You're broke and are just going to go to your little community college. Rot away, you loser. He looked at me with disdain, hoping to see me heartbroken, but I was not giving him what he wanted. Oh, USC, huh? Sorry, but I got into Harvard. I pulled out my acceptance letter from my bag and threw it on the table. I gave them both a big smile.